And I think when I was 29, we had just bought our first house, and 6 months in, I caught her cheating on me. It devastated me. And I turned to the harder drugs. My parents loved me to death, my mom especially, and just the stealing from them, the taking from them. I didn't care about any of it, and I didn't care how they felt.
Welcome to the channel. The goal here is simple: to provide a platform for men to tell real, unscripted stories from their perspectives. These are raw and honest accounts, shared in their own words. Our men have overcome harsh, unforgiving realities. Now they share the truth about their troubled journey with the hope that others can see change is possible. In this series, we'll hear from Kelley Kierce, who recently completed the program. Like many, his life was idyllic up through early adulthood, but we'll hear how such a life can nevertheless fall apart, really fall apart. So how you doing, man?
I'm good. How you doing, Michael?
I'm doing pretty good. So you came to North Georgia Works about a year ago, correct?
That's correct. August of last year.
You just recently graduated. What was your graduation date?
It was June 15th.
June 15th. All right. Well, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
So it's been cool to watch your story a little bit. I'm excited to kind of talk to you today because you've had a pretty unique path within our organization. I think it speaks highly to the kind of person you are. But I think you've been able to accomplish so much intangible achievements, and not just jobs and sobriety, but leadership, and so many men have looked up to you, and as a staff we've leaned heavily on you. You've been a huge asset to our organization and to me personally, even probably more so than sometimes I feel like you might have been more helpful to us than we were to you. So I think there's a lot of value in your story because it shows that no matter how down you can be in life or how far you can go, it doesn't mean that just surviving isn't always the end goal. You can really become a real asset to human beings and to people and to men and to the world by how you bounce back from these situations. So I'm excited to talk to you a little bit. But so tell me a little bit about your story. So I know you had a pretty good childhood.
I did.
Right. But tell me when all that kind of started going funky for you, when your story went from a good upbringing with good parents to where it kind of fell off the rails.
Well, I think growing up, like I said, I played sports. Both of my parents were together my entire life. Didn't argue a whole lot. So I was brought up with a good family, a younger sister, older brother, who were always there for me, and I was there for them. I did a little drugs, through middle school and early high school. Nothing hard. I smoked weed and met a girl in the 8th grade. Who I fell in love with. She fell in love with me. We were together for almost 15 years. And I seemed to turn my life around, I'd say, right after high school.
Okay.
Bought my first house, both had good jobs. And we're doing some good things in the community and really doing good. And I think when I was 29, we had just bought our first house. And 6 months in,
6 months into your marriage.
6 months into my marriage.
Okay.
Dated almost 15 years.
15 years. Uh-huh.
Married for 6 months.
You don't hear that very often.
You don't. And I caught her cheating on me. It devastated me.
Okay.
Wound up. She left the house. I stayed in the house, which is probably even worse. The memories of all of those 15 years. And I turned to the harder drugs. Didn't want to deal with the pain, the feelings. I would say the partying part got pretty rough. Bars, we wound up selling the house, a pocket full of money.
Fueled it even more.
Yeah, chased a lot of women, to try to not feel this pain. And so for a few years, I was down and out.
All right, so your response to this trauma was to just give up, pedal to the metal, and go live college spring break, right, for the next couple of 3 years.
Right.
Okay.
And
I tell a lot of other people in these videos, like, if you could help, you can elaborate on this. Like, there's two types of these kind of situations. One where a lot of young people fall into where partying and drugs and alcohol are fun, and
sure.
You can have some fun doing it.
Yeah.
But eventually, at some point, it becomes dark.
Yeah, fun stops.
Yeah, and when that darkness starts fueling, that pain and trauma starts fueling this stuff, man, it gets dirty and it gets bad in a hurry. So tell me a little bit about, like, in those moments, those years, like, talk to me about some of your low points, man.
I think the way I treated my parents.
Mm-hmm.
My parents loved me to death, my mom especially, and just the stealing from them, the taking from them, getting in their cars whenever I wanted to in the middle of the night, just to get the next fix, to not be a responsible adult. I did whatever it took not to do that, and I worked when I showed up, which was probably 2 or 3 days a week. It wasn't much,
Yeah.
but the way I treated my parents was probably the hardest thing for me to ever to take in, and now that I think of it now,
Yeah, but at the time, though,
I didn't care.
you didn't care.
I didn't care about any of it, and I didn't care how they felt. And my dad owned a couple condos in Panama City Beach, and he thought, well, let's move down there. Well, between these months or so of me doing that, I met a girl close to Albany who had her stuff together. She was a good, decent girl. Well, the crazy idea was for us to go to Panama City Beach, live in my dad's condo, and we did that. And I partied a little bit more. Almost lost her.
So when I said college spring break, you were literally went and did college spring
Yes,
break.
yes, and
Hit that La Vila, huh?
I did several times, several nights.
There's no good story. I mean, there's no good story that starts with La Vila or Spinnaker,
Yeah, and so I had the grand idea that we would move down there, and we did. And I partied for a few more months, and she said, "I'm leaving if you don't stop," and I did. I smoked the occasional joint, maybe took the occasional lower tab, but never to the point where I was from my first wife and the divorce. Those 3 years were probably the worst so far till we get to the later part of the story. I did pretty well for myself. We owned a cleaning business and maintenance company, and we did well. I think at one point we had 19 employees, made the most money I ever made in my life, and got to the
all
point.
while being functionally addicted.
Functionally addicted to mostly marijuana. I didn't
Okay.
touch in these later years in Panama City Beach.
So you just cut back to the softer stuff.
Yeah, and I really just smoked marijuana at this point, and she did too. She had one daughter, and she lived with us. So we wound up being the property manager of the place where my dad owned a condo at, and so we lived there for free. Life wasn't too bad, and I think she had some issues mentally, and I probably had a few of them too. And she wound up going to crisis a couple times, and she needed to. But in the end, it just wasn't working. We were fighting all the time. Just was not working out after, I think, 9 years.
So it was very long.
Yeah,
So
from
you were
my
for a while.
32 to 40.
Okay.
We were together 8 or 9 years. And wound up moving back to Albany.
Now, is that just trying to get away? You just upped and ran?
Well,
Or
yeah.
did
My
you ever-
dad had died in 2008. My mom was still in the condo, and we had another house off-site by then at the very end. So my mom was ready to go back to Albany. She had moved back to Tifton. So I said, well, Mom, if you're going back to Albany, I'm going back with you. She probably didn't want me to do that, but I did. Because I was at this point now where I was going back to what happened with my first wife. Back to the drugs, back to the partying, back to the chasing the
No
women.
holds barred.
Yeah, I'm just going all in again, is what I'm doing. I moved back to Albany, and I'm living with my mother at 40 years old. Spiritually dead. No spiritual life in me whatsoever. And things got really bad. Brandon started running with the wrong people, and I was first introduced to methamphetamine for the first time in my life. And I loved it. I loved everything about it. I wanted more of it. I wanted to be the part of the methamphetamine scene, whatever it took for me to get in there. I seen the money part of it. So at this point,
So you started selling.
yes, I did a lot of selling.
So
a
that's
lot of
dangerous
use-
for a guy who ran a business. That means you can do quite well.
Yeah, and I did.
Yeah.
And I did, and I'm known down there for that. Unfortunately, I am. And I wound up catching petty low felony charges of possession, simple possession. And, I get locked up. My mom would leave me in there for a while, and she eventually would bail me out. And this probably happened 3 times in 3 different counties. So it got to the point where I'd go to a rehab, and I may stay 30 days and just check out. That was my MO. I could get out of jail by saying I was going to a rehab.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the MO for me to use to get out of that situation.
Never with any intent to get it turned around.
Never. I think towards 44 years old, maybe, returned 3 or 4 years later, I wound up in a jail, and it was a Aspire state mandated rehab. And
so what did you do to get caught though for that time?
It was another possession charge.
Still drugs. Okay.
Another possession charge. And I wound up meeting someone there, and she worked there, and fell in love with her. She fell in love with me. It was, I'd finished the program for the first time in my life. I was there 10 months, I think, and did well there, and was doing well. Had a job, doing good. Wound up getting a house with her, and it just went bad again.
So that time though, when you were with her, did you know it was gonna go bad, or did you feel like you had kind of hit, like maybe you turned a corner a little bit?
Well, she had been sober 5 years.
Wow.
She was working there, and I almost feel some way responsible. And that's hard to even say, but it's how I felt. In the end,
is it probably true?
It is true.
Yeah,
I totally believe it was true, and she had been through the same thing. Got her son back, nice little apartment, and I'm doing well. We're doing well. We get out of this apartment, get a nice house, and we're doing just extremely well. And one night, I just happened to see somebody at the store who had some dope, some meth, and took it home, and wound up introducing it back to her life.
That simple.
That simple. And
so doing great, not looking for it.
Yep. Seen a guy at the store.
That's it.
Crazy story. And wound up introducing it back into her life. And I'm responsible for that.
So I'm assuming it did not go well for her either.
It did not. In the end, it did not. That's when I started dealing big time.
I'm assuming the guilt and the stress of that, man, and there's probably no going back from that at that point.
At that point, there was no going back. I jumped head first into dealing a lot of drugs, and mostly methamphetamine. Buying stolen property, selling stolen property. This was what I did now. This was my job.
So you were full cartel level.
Now I got warrants for my arrest,
yeah.
And I can remember one story of a guy. I'm walking out there, and this guy had done something. He's hanging on my fence, got 2 guys, and he's blood everywhere. And I'm walking out there, I'm like, what's going on? This guy's begging me to save my life. I was so spiritually dead and didn't care. I don't care what you do with him. Just get him off my fence. And this guy's in a bad shape. But I didn't care. The drugs were taking me so far away that I just didn't care anymore. And wound up getting busted. Big boy busted. And this time is when I wound up in...
no couple weeks in county jail this time.
None of that this time.
Mm-hmm.
I wound up spending 8 months, and then was sentenced to a 10-2 by Judge Marshall in Albany.
So that's a 10-year sentence, but you got to serve at least 2.
Right.
If you do well during the 2,
get out on...
you could put the potential is to get out there. Is
right.
Open to you.
And then at this point, I go in front of Judge Marshall, and I said, Judge Marshall, I don't know if prison will help me or not. She said, I don't think it will. She said, because if I let you go to prison, you'll be out in about 6 months. You done 8 in the county. I'm like, where's she going with this? She says, well, I'm going to send you to RSAT. So go sit in my county jail for 3 months till a bed comes open, and you'll go there and do 9 months.
So tell everybody who doesn't know from me, what's RSAT?
RSAT is a residential substance abuse program that's run by GDC, the state of Georgia.
It's like a different version of prison intervention for addicts.
Right. It's it's rehab with a bents and chains around it.
That's correct.
Yeah, with a lot of wire.
It's prison rehab.
It's exactly what it is. Mm-hmm. So at this point, I'm good with it. I'm saying maybe this is what I need. This is great. Well, I'll just do it. I would have been out probably 6-8 months, just like Judge Marshall said. And probably right back on the streets with no help whatsoever. So I wound up getting to RSAT. I remember my plea deal was a 10-2. So I get to RSAT for 1 month, and they come and tell me to roll it up. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? Well, I wound up at Jackson State Prison
So why'd that happen?
because the paperwork never got changed.
Oh, so you
From
got pulled out of RSAT.
yes,
Oh, no.
from the paperwork never got changed from the 10 to 2
Mm-hmm.
to her changing the RSAT. It never got done. So the state of Georgia thinks I'm still serving the 10 to 2 sentence. The probation officer in another county wound up signing off on my RSAT with the probation violation, and that's how I got the RSAT. Because she wound up.
How long did you stay in the big boy prison?
I stayed, I think it was 4 months. I stayed in Jackson for a month and a half because I had to come back to court because they knew they messed up. I knew they had messed up. I knew they had to let me go. So I wound up only doing 4 or 5 months.
4 or 5 months in a place like Jackson has nothing to.
Well, I wound up going to a county camp.
Oh, okay. So you got out of that. Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I did.
You dodged a bullet there, huh?
I did, but I had to go to court halfway
Yeah.
through Jackson. So I come back and spend another 3 or 4 weeks before I ever got shipped to a small county camp in Harris County, Georgia, which is above Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
And they wound up having to teletype me out of prison. That's when the judge releases you from prison because they knew they messed up.
Mm-hmm.
They knew it was something that it was their fault. So only conditions that I attend a 30-day place in called the
So
Feed.
you were essentially scot-free after doing your 30 days.
Yeah.
Just because they screwed up.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet you were loving that, man.
All I got to do is 30 days in the Phoenix Rehab in Thomasville, Georgia.
And you're done.
Once I release prison. Ask me if I ever made it there.
I was going to say, I wasn't going to ask you that, but I said, I'm going to go on a limb and say you did not give it the best 30 days of your life, right?
I never made it there.
I would have felt bad for the rehab that had to just deal with your sorry, that you would have been so annoying and grumpy and difficult. Yeah. So you didn't even make it. All you had to do is screw 30 days and you're done.
Yeah. First thing I did was light a bowl of meth up as soon as possible. That same night that I got out of prison. That my mom drove all that way to pick me up. You know, and my girlfriend picked me up from mom's house once she got off work, straight to the house she's living in now.
Fired it up.
Fired it right up. Didn't even care.
Didn't learn a thing.
You know, because she's still using it at this point. So I'm already in a bad situation. She's using, so I might as well use. So I never even made it to the 30-day rehab the next
So let me
day.
ask you about that. I mean, was the plan never to make it? Or was there at least some desire at that point in your life to try to get this fixed? Or it just never even?
The plan was to make it. Plan was to get there. But once I started doing the drug that same night, I knew at that point,
it's over.
We can talk about it all you want to. My mom's calling me every day. Son, you're going today? You got to go down there. You know, my mom's done all this work to get me out. Calling the judge's office. Y'all have messed up.
Doing that work, yep.
And I just throw it right back in her face, which was just terrible. So I wound up being a bigger drug dealer at this point. I'm talking about
these things escalate; they don't go down.
Yeah,
they get bigger.
At this point, I'm tied in to the big boys, and I'm moving pounds of the stuff. And I've got the Lee County Sheriff's Office riding by, and I know what's going on. And I'm buying every 4-wheeler, go-kart, trailer, every toolbox you can bring to my house. I'm giving you pennies on the dollar for it. I'm sending 3 or 4 guys to the flea market that Saturday and Sunday to sell this stuff at a price that I know you're going to pay for it, and I'm still going to make a lot of money because these guys are just bringing it all to me, and I'm just buying it in bulk. I'm probably more addicted to this at this point.
Really?
I've gotten to the point where I want whatever you're going out and taking.
So you're just like being a fence was just
it's my thing.
Really?
I love that more than probably anything I've done.
No, really. What was so? I mean, what was so cool about it?
Well,
I mean, just the free money, or
it's an easy way to make money, and in the chaos of it, the phone call at 3:00 in the morning, hey, I got a trailer with 2 4-wheelers on it. What you want me to do? Well, just come on by. Just drop right there. Here's $1,000. Well, I'm gonna make $5 or $6 grand off of it because I got a guy that's 4 counties away that I'm doing business with that's gonna come a couple of days later and come get it from me out of the woods and pay me 10. You know, it's just the way that I was doing business at this point. And making a lot of money, walking around with 10, 12 grand in my pocket.
It's such a funny thing that how many times I've heard it over the years about guys that are so talented, and smart and talented guys are the dangerous ones.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause, I mean, they can. It is so hard to walk away from how successful you can be in doing things on the shady side if you have the acumen to do it, right? And so I could totally see a guy like you.
I did it.
Everything I've known about you is how well you lead and how many people will follow you and how many people will turn to you. And so I could only imagine in that world, I would imagine how many people would have looked to Kelley as the shining light of
Yeah.
he's the guy if he's doing it. I mean, it's got to be a good idea. Like it can't be
Yeah.
wrong. Like we're gonna follow him right to the gates of hell. So
Yeah.
I could tell. I bet you turned. There's quite a few men. I bet you led right off a cliff.
I did, and I let them straight off of it.
I
Probably
know.
more than a few.
Yeah, they probably climbed back up and did it again a couple more times.
A couple of them did.
Yeah,
A couple of them did, and I have to say, I loved it probably more than anything I've ever done as far as making money in the bad way. Was that way.
Now, was there any part of it because you were helping other people, or did you just like being the man?
I just like being the man, and I was, and I did it for a good while this time, almost a year and a half,
Without getting caught.
without getting caught. They were watching, and
Again, you smart guys can do a lot of damage, man.
So smart me winds up leaving that apartment and getting the house out in the middle of nowhere, and that's what got me. 2 guys wound up burglarizing a sheriff's deputy's house. And I wound up buying everything they had on the trailer. Now, they didn't tell me it was a sheriff's deputy's officer. But once you do that, these guys are going to stop at nothing to find out.
Now,
It's personal.
So they got the means and the time, and
It's personal.
it's their job. They're clocked in to catch you.
Yeah, it's personal.
That's a tough thing when they're mad at you.
So I get arrested again at this point at the new house that I'm in with me, her, and her son. Same girl.
Boy, you've put that girl through some stuff.
I
Man.
have. I put her through a lot, and that's why I'm so. Well, we'll get into it, I guess, but I'm so proud of her today because she's been clean almost a year now, and so I'm proud of her. We'll get to that in a moment. So I wind up going back to jail. She does too. Her son.
Oh, you got her taken down with you too.
Yeah, we both are going to jail for the same charges. Because of course it's not mine at this point. I don't know what you're talking about. It's not my dope. And she says the same thing, and eventually that'll play out. I wound up in jail, and I am 8 months in, and I've got some money. So of course I hire a good lawyer who says, well, we'll do this. You got warrants in Dougherty County. You're in Lee County Jail, so let's go ahead and pay a $10,000 bond here. Or you'll get your probation bond over in Albany. So we'll just move you to here, move you over there, and you'll be right back out. And I need you to go back to this Phoenix place again. Well, never made it.
Again.
Never made it.
What is wrong with you?
Well, this new girl, because my old girl,
It's always
my old
a girl.
girl's doing red off and got new guy. You know what I mean? So
Oh man, it's always a girl. It's
it's
a girl.
always
It's
a female.
Yeah.
And this time it will not be a female with me. I promise you. That's one thing.
Man, it's on camera now. I mean, it's on video.
absolutely
We all
on camera. I said from the day I walked in the door that I would not let a female interfere with my recovery ever again.
If every man could follow that, we'd have a lot of clean men.
We
so
would.
I hope you. I'll hold you to that.
And I want you to. And I want to set an example for these guys.
So you followed another girl. Again, didn't do what I would assume was 30 days and clean.
That's it. That's all I had to do was go in there and do it. And I refused to do it again. Wound up getting high again. And wound up trying to get back to the same level I once was. Which
Really?
I couldn't never get there. I tried. I wanted to. And I just couldn't.
So your goal was to get back to being a top-notch dealer.
Yeah. I figured I got this lawyer. He's awesome. And I'm sure he can find a way to get me out of this if I get in trouble again. It's always been my MO. They'll figure out a way to get me out. Don't worry about the 2 years I was sentenced and went to RSAT and all this good stuff. All this stuff's in the back of my head. I'm used to it now. I could do it again, but this time Judge Marshall says, you're going to RSAT. So I went up with probation violation, wound up back in front of her.
She's lucky she did that, right? I mean,
Well, her last words to me were this: "You come back in front of me, Mr. Kierce, and I will baptize you." And those were exact words. She said, "I will send you away for a long time." And something resonated that day.
I hope so. I think it's not lost on you. That's a pretty
She was
rare
serious.
thing for a judge to be that lenient when you've missed out. I mean, that's pretty. So God threw you a real bone that day.
Yeah, she has spared me.
So I hope you. Well, maybe we might need to come back to that, but I hope you've written her a letter.
Not yet.
I think we need to make sure we get that done.
It needs to be done. She was the first time when the RSAT thing was changed. she was trying to help me.
Mm-hmm.
My mom's crying in the courtroom. My family's in the courtroom. My aunt, my brother, my sister. My mom's bawling, crying, and everybody's happy because she's wound up sending me to RSAT instead of prison.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom's like, "Well, that's a great step.
Perfect too. Is what he needs.
Yeah, it's what my mom
What a
wanted
great
to
ending.
hear."
Yeah.
And at that point, I was ready. I was ready. And
So this time you were ready.
this time I wound up in RSAT in the same bunk that was the first time.
So what changed this time though? I mean, just Judge Marshall, or did something? What happened? Because like, if I'm understanding you correctly, just a few months before, you were ready to be the kingpin again.
Yeah, and I wound up there.
Did something happen?
Mom got sick.
There we go.
Mom got sick, and I prayed every day that somehow she would pull through until I got out. Well, it didn't work out that way.
Really? So what happened?
So she winds up passing away in February, which was tough for me. I'm a mama's boy, always have been. So it was extremely tough. And
Now, are you in RSAT at this time?
I'm in RSAT at this time. I had made a phone call to my brother that day and my sister because I call her every day and check on her. And when I made that phone call, I was talking to my brother on the phone. And I heard, and she was at hospice at home this time. I mean, it's any day now.
You knew it was coming.
It's any day now.
Okay.
And I heard my sister say, "I need you to come here." Something told me at that point, that's when she had passed. It's her day. I'm not going to let the sheriff come get me.
Show up in shackles.
Put me in shackles. Mm-hmm. Take me down there. My mom was very spiritual. So I made a point to match her spirituality.
When you were in RSAT, had you at least turned a corner to where the version of you today, did your mom at least see